All right, so you're new CEO. You're thinking big picture, right? Strategy, growth, culture. But what if I told you the single biggest threat to your company isn't some big, bad competitor, but something hiding right under your nose, on your own balance sheet? Yeah, we're talking about cash management. I know, it's not the sexiest topic, but it's the thing that separates the leaders who thrive from those who get totally blindsided.
So, here's the game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to shine a light on the common blind spot that catches so many new leaders off guard. Then, we'll get into this wild paradox of growth, how winning can actually lead to losing. After that, don't worry, we'll arm you with a practical toolkit, give you a real action plan, and show you exactly how to become the cash champion your company absolutely needs.
Okay, so let's get real. Why does something so critical get ignored so often? Well, it's not glamorous, is it? Nobody throws you a parade for managing cash well, but get it wrong? The punishment is swift, and it is severe.
And this analogy from the Yale School of Management, it's just perfect. I mean, think about it. You're on a cruise ship. As long as the toilets flush and the showers work, you don't give a second thought to the plumbing. But the moment it breaks, it's an absolute crisis. That is exactly what cash is for a business. It's the plumbing. And if it fails, the whole ship comes to a grinding halt. You know, it's a really understandable trap to fall into. When you're a new leader, you're pulled in a million different directions. Customers, your team, constant fires to put out. So of course, you're drawn to the exciting stuff, like strategy. And a lot of leaders get hyper-focused on the P&L, that profit and loss statement. They're chasing revenue, they're chasing profit, maybe using a metric like EBITDA. The thinking is, hey, if we're growing and profitable, everything else will just sort itself out. But that thinking, it can be seriously dangerous. Right. And this just nails the problem perfectly. It's like a ship captain who's only obsessed with how fast they're going and where they're headed, but they completely ignore the fuel gauge. It's just dangerous. In your business, the P&L, that's your destination. But your cash flow statement, that is your fuel gauge. And if you ignore it, you could be running on fumes and not even know it. So this leads us to something that honestly feels like a plot twist for so many leaders. It's this idea that fast growth, even profitable growth, can actually be the thing that sinks your company. I know, it sounds totally backward, but trust me, it's a very, very real threat. And here it is. This is probably the single most important lesson any CEO will ever learn. Say it with me. Profit does not equal cash. It's that simple. Profit is just an idea on paper, an accounting concept. But cash is the actual oxygen your business needs to breathe, day in and day out. They are not the same thing. Okay, let's break this example down because this is where the light bulb really goes on. Look at month 1. The company books $30,000 in revenue, and hey, they show a profit of $3,500. Looks great, right? But now look down at the cash flow. See, because they have to pay their suppliers before their customers pay them, their actual cash balance at the end of the month is negative $1,500. Now watch what happens in month 2. Sales go up, profits go up. Awesome. But look at the cash. It gets even worse. They're down to negative $39,000. This company is profitable on paper, but it's literally growing itself right into bankruptcy because it's running out of cash. All right, so that's the scary part. It's a real problem, for sure. But the good news is it's totally manageable. So now let's shift gears and talk solutions. We're going to open up the toolkit and look at the actual levers you can pull to get a grip on your company's cash. First up is something called working capital. And look, you can forget all the complicated textbook definitions. All this really is, at its heart, is the cash that's tied up in your day-to-day operations. It's the money you need to fill that gap between when you pay your bills and when you finally get paid. As a CEO, your big goal here is to make that number as tiny as possible. And you do that by pulling 3 main levers. First, you've got accounts receivable, or AR. That's the money your customers owe you. The goal? Simple. Get that cash in the bank faster. Second lever, inventory. This is the stuff you're holding to sell. The goal? Hold less of it, just enough, but no more. And the third lever is accounts payable, or AP. This is the money you owe your suppliers. And here, the goal is to pay them a little slower. I mean, within your terms, of course. Don't be late, but use the time you have. So you take those 3 levers, and they all come together in one super important metric, the cash conversion cycle, or CCC for short. Think of this as the timeline for a single dollar in your business. It measures how many days it takes from the moment that dollar leaves your bank account to pay for something to the moment it comes back home from a customer sale. So check this out visually. Your cash goes out the door when you pay your suppliers. Then, for a while, it's just sitting there, tied up as inventory. Then, after you sell it, it's still tied up, this time as a receivable, while you wait for the customer to pay. Your entire job as CEO is to shrink this timeline, squeeze it, make it shorter. A shorter cycle means your business needs less cash just to operate. And for the real masters of this game, the cycle can even go negative. Can you imagine that? Getting paid by your customers before you have to pay your suppliers? Your business literally starts generating cash as it grows. Now that is a strategic weapon. Okay, so understanding the theory is great, but it doesn't mean much until you put it into practice, right? So let's get tactical. Let's build an action plan to turn all these ideas into your daily habits. First things first, you gotta stop guessing. You need to build a simple cash flow forecast. And you don't need some fancy, expensive software. Just decide how far out you can reasonably see. List every single dollar you expect to come in, and when. Then list every single dollar you expect to go out, and when. And then you just do the math to see your running balance. This becomes your early warning system. It'll show you trouble long before you hit it. Next up, let's talk about how you budget. The traditional way, just taking last year's budget and adding 5%, that can just bake in wasteful spending year after year. So you might want to consider something called zero-based budgeting. Now, it's more work for sure, but it forces every single department to justify every single dollar of their expenses, from scratch, every time. It's an incredible way to make sure every dollar you spend is actually pushing your current goals forward. And listen, you personally have to become an expense hawk. This is hands-on stuff. Get a report of everything you spend by vendor and just question everything. And here's a trick that is so powerful. Sign every single check yourself. I mean it. When you physically feel the cash leaving the company, it changes your whole mindset. Be tough on corporate credit cards, make people use reimbursement, and scrutinize all your people costs, especially overtime. It just sends a powerful message through the whole company. Cash is precious here. At the end of the day, this is not something you can just hand off to your CFO and forget about. As the CEO, you have to be the chief cash champion. The buck, and I mean that literally, stops with you. And this isn't just theory. Listen to this real-world story from Austin King, the CEO of Steel River. He said, "I thought we were in a great place. Our P&L looked fantastic." Classic growth story, right? They were growing like crazy, 30%. But he says that exciting growth rate consumed a lot of cash. Growth was great, but cash stress was high too. It's that growth paradox playing out in real life. And so, his advice for new CEOs now? It's blunt, it's simple. He says, focus on cash management, or be prepared to suffer the consequences. I mean, that's a lesson learned the hard way from someone who's been exactly where you might be right now. So I'm going to leave you with this one question to really chew on for your own business. We all know you're focused on growth, but you have to ask yourself, is your cash position actually fueling that growth? Or is your growth draining your fuel tank? Honestly, knowing the answer to that question, it can make all the difference in the world.